Hello. Good morning,
Hi,
Venerable.
good morning, good afternoon. How is everyone? Good, good, wonderful, wonderful. Some people are looking like they're in a very cold space. I'm a little bit chilly too here. Ah, winter is coming. Time to start, or you think I should wait a little bit?
You can start, Venerable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So shall we start giving ourselves 2 minutes of time to settle the body, settle the mind, to bring all our energy to the present moment so that we can take in whatever we experience and hear to the best of our ability. And then we can also use it to the best of our ability. All right, just want to make sure that I can see clear. Yeah. So just make sure that you sit comfortable, whether that is on the floor or in a chair or on the couch. And then slowly and gently start to direct your energies towards your body, towards the place that you are sitting. Sometimes some of our energies are very far in the past or very far in the future. So imagine that you gather them all. And if there is something that you need to remember, for instance, sometimes parts of us, they keep holding on to something because we're so scared that we forget. And if that's the case, write it down and say, I'll come back to that after the session. And then bring that energy to your body. And if you feel that already quite some energy has come back to your body, you can focus a little bit more narrow by focusing your awareness on your breath, either by observing the rising and falling of your abdomen or by observing the air going through your nostrils. And then set a motivation for yourself, for being here today, for listening, for reflecting, for meditating. Why do you want to do that? How would you formulate the meaning it has for you? And then relax your attention. And we're here today on day 8. Right? For some of us, the final last day on living life to the fullest. And this week we are talking about how we can develop our qualities, how, maybe I should say it like that, how we can develop our potential for qualities, so that it is not just a potential, but that we create the causes and the conditions that that potential actually can start to develop and ripen into the qualities. And so because we have Buddha potential, which means because our mind does not exist inherently, because we do not exist inherently, we all have the potential to develop all the qualities that a Buddha has. Right? The possibility of developing qualities is limitless. It doesn't have any end. You know, so every time when you think, oh no, I can't do that, not true. Maybe you can't do it today. Maybe you do not have all the causes and conditions together. But if you give yourself time and some training and you start today, you will be able to develop these qualities. True? Maybe you can say, well, I can be good in that, but, you know, not that good. Not true. You can keep learning. You can keep developing more qualities. Maybe you think, you know, I'm already getting quite old, you know, so not really much use to develop more qualities. I'm quite happy with what I have, and no need to do that, you know. Then you basically waste every day from today till you're going to die. Being old is not a reason to stop developing good qualities. Once I heard from a monk in Serra. He was in his 80s and he was still memorizing text. That people said, why is he memorizing text? You know, he's not going to live that long anymore. What he's going to do with that? But he was making imprints, and he felt that training his mind in memorizing had great benefit for his mental capacity. And so we don't know whether we're going to be 85 or we're going to be 95, or, you know, we might become older and older. So taking care of your mental capacity is a good thing to do. We never know when it's going to be finished. And whatever we develop in this life, you know, will have effect for next life as well. For instance, all the qualities that we develop in terms of our wisdom mind, they say that the merit related to wisdom cannot be destroyed. So the views that we develop, they're going to be there next life. And you will recognize, because of that, you will recognize the teachings more quickly. The merits that we gather with generosity and ethics and patience, we also take them with us to a next life, and they can create very good conditions for us to practice. But also the qualities itself, we take with us in next life. They can get destroyed by, for instance, very strong anger, or they, you know, maybe we don't meet the conditions in which they can surface. But the habituation that we develop by practicing generosity, by practicing ethics, by practicing perseverance, by practicing patience, we can take that with us to the next life. We do take that with us to the next life. So there's nothing lost. And anyway, what else would you do? You know, what choice do we have? The choice that we have is I'm going to do that. I'm going to develop my good qualities. I'm going to practice Dharma, or I'm going to practice samsara. Right? It's not that you, even when we just going to have a break and we sit down, then what actually happens most of the time, depending on our mind, is that we practice more of samsara. Right? Whatever we do, either we practice causes for liberation or we practice causes for samsara. There's no middle. It's not that we say, you know what, I have a break from both of that. I just want to get out of it for a little while. When you get out of it for a little while, you're definitely not striving for liberation, which means you are practicing for samsara. Right? If you want to take a break, you have to make sure you have a very good motivation for doing so. And we'll talk about that today. So that is a possibility. But whatever we do mindless, you know, just because we like it or because it happens or we don't want to think about it, or these are all causes for samsara. You cannot say they are causes for liberation. Right? It would be too easy to get liberated. If that were causes for liberation, we would already have been liberated. If it is that easy, if we can do it mindlessly. Sometimes we have these thoughts, right? Finding ways to get out of the hard work, or, you know, we think it's not, you know, don't make it so seriously. We can also just relax and have a good time, and that is fine too, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you think in terms of, do I create causes for liberation or for samsara, then, you know, it becomes quite serious, unfortunately, sometimes. If I may say so. Cut this out, this last sentence. So we looked yesterday into, we made it a start with the practice of the 6 perfections, right? That is the practice that all the bodhisattvas do who have developed a mind that wishes to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. They engage in the 6 perfections, the perfection of generosity, ethics, patience, joyous effort, concentration, and wisdom. And they perfect these practices, or they perfect these perfections once they are on the path, and once they have realized emptiness. Then on every ground they move to, they will perfect one of the perfections. I'm not sure if you ever heard of these teachings, but when we are on the path, we have certain stages that we work through. And one stage that we need to go through is that we realize the nature of reality. And we need to realize it directly. We need to see it directly. Once we have that realization, we are definitely on our way out of samsara. We will not take rebirth in samsara anymore due to karma and delusions. So that is a very important point. Then for quite a long period of time, until we are enlightened, we're going to familiarize with the realization of the nature of reality. We're going to familiarize our mind with the realization of emptiness, and we're going to deepen that realization. Not so much in, or maybe I should say, we're going to strengthen that realization. So it is not that we're going to develop different realizations of emptiness, but we're going to make it stronger and stronger, so that that realization has the capacity to eliminate more and more delusions from our mind stream. So from the moment that we realize the nature of reality directly up to enlightenment, we talk about there are 10 grounds that a bodhisattva has to move through. And on each ground, he perfects one of the perfections. So on the first ground, he perfects the perfection of generosity. On the second ground, he perfects the perfection of ethics. On the sixth ground, he perfects the perfection of wisdom. So then we can say, what on the seventh, eighth, ninth, and 10th grounds? What is happening there? You know, so on the sixth ground, he perfects the perfection of wisdom with respect to emptiness, with respect to the nature of reality, with respect to the ultimate nature of reality. Then the seventh ground, he starts to perfect, I think it is skillful means, which is a wisdom that we can develop within the conventional nature of reality. Right? Wisdom is not only about emptiness, wisdom is also, then how do I apply that knowledge that I gained from that realization of emptiness? How do I bring that to conventional reality? How do I bring that to my mind when I'm outside of the meditation? And what can I do with that wisdom? So I develop skills. So we develop skills, we develop prayer, and the eighth ground is about a certain type of meditation that we develop, but I'm not sure what it was. It was related somehow to our intelligence, but I'm not sure what it was. So sorry about that. Then the ninth ground, we develop, I think, the perfection of prayer. And then the 10th ground, I forgot that one too. Anyway, there are 4 grounds where we perfect the perfection of wisdom with respect to conventional reality. And then the 11th ground is the same as the Buddha ground. So then when these perfections are discussed within the Lam Rim, we only talk about 6 perfections. You know, but just know that there is a whole lot of knowledge coming after that. All right, everyone with me? So today we're going to talk about the perfection of perseverance, the perfection of concentration, and the perfection of wisdom. Perseverance. Perseverance, another way of saying that is joyous effort. Perseverance is not just, you know, I need to dig a hole and I'm going to persevere to finish the hole. That is not what is meant with developing this skill. This skill is specifically referring to when we engage in virtuous actions, that we experience delight in doing so, that we experience joy in engaging in virtue. We are also used to engaging in the activities of samsara, right? When we need to do virtuous actions, depending on your mind, you know, you can be a little bit like, oh, do I really have to do that? Or we can have, you know, another type of negative mindset that is not interested in engaging in virtue. Engaging in virtue comes with hardships, right? Especially if you are a student from Lama Zopa Rinpoche who says to you, okay, so now you need to do 300,000 mandala offerings and 600,000 prostrations and 200,000 sattas. You know, that's your practice. In order to finish such a practice, you need perseverance. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. You need to experience joy in doing these activities. Right? Otherwise you start and after 100 prostrations, you are like, that's not for me. I'm not going to do that. But if you can somehow create a joyous feeling while doing that, you will be able to sustain that practice. Right? If you see the joyous effort that Lama Zopa Rinpoche has in creating virtue, that's can be an inspiration. You know, he's always thinking about sentient beings. How can I help them? How can I benefit them? What can I do for them? And then on top of that, he is willing to engage himself in these actions. So he doesn't say, oh, this and this needs to happen, you do that. No, he will do that, right? He is never lazy in that regard, always jumping up. Same as what we say about Tara, you know, the female deity. She's sitting ready to jump up to help. So then when we talk about perseverance or joyous effort or delight in virtue, then you can see that laziness is probably that what prevents us from developing such a mind. So in Buddhism, they talk about 3 types of laziness, and I'm sure, I mean, I recognize them all, so I'm sure you will recognize some of that. So one is the laziness of procrastination, thinking like, oh no, today is not a good day, you know, I'll do that tomorrow. Oh no, today is not a good day, I'll do that tomorrow. And we keep repeating that every day, right? That is, according to Buddhism, a type of laziness. Procrastination. We always think I have enough time to do all that. Right? There will be another day. So the best remedy for the laziness of procrastination is that we think about death. Not just death and impermanence, but death. We do not know when death is going to come. We do not know how much time we're going to have. So if we feel that this is that we really need to do, or that this could be very helpful for us or could bring us benefit, then the only right time to do it is now. Every time when you catch yourself, oh, I'm going to put that on another time, think about laziness of procrastination and think about how can I do that now? You know? So then another laziness is that we are so attached to samsaric activities. For instance, you want to do some Dharma practice, you want to do some meditation or offering water bowls or, you know, whatever practice you're doing, and you think, oh, you know what, I'll first go and do some shopping, and then you come home and then you put the shopping in the fridge, and then you think maybe I should do the cooking first, then after I do the meditation. Or, you know, and then you have done the cooking, and then you want to do the eating, and then when the eating, and then you have to clean up, and when you have cleaned up, you think I'm going to go for a walk, and once you have gone for a walk, there is something else that needs to be done before you can do your practice, right? I'm sure you all have such a mind sometimes popping up. We like doing these activities, you know, or when we, for instance, we have a list, what do I want to do today? And some of the list is Dharma activity, and other parts of the list is samsaric activity. Which one do you do first? Oh, first I want to do this and this and this and this and this, and then I do my Dharma practice. Right? That is due to our attachment to these activities. We somehow, you know, we have been doing them for so long. We like doing that, or we like the result of doing that. So there, you know, that can be an obstacle to our Dharma practice. That can be an obstacle. So then in developing joyous effort, we try to counteract that mind that is attached to the samsaric activities. And we can do that, for instance, by thinking about, you know, when we do samsaric activities, there is some joy the moment we do it, right? We can enjoy it. And then there is maybe some little joy straight after it. But then the joy is gone. We have to do another time. We have to do more. that joy is not going to last for a long period of time. So what we can do is we can think about, well, if I'm going to do Dharma activities, although there might be a little bit of resistance now, which is the laziness of procrastination, if I'm going to do it now and I'm going to engage in that, then at the end I will feel very joyous inside. And not only that, that joy will last a long time. And that joy will help me to engage more in these actions. And then that joy will go with me in future lifetimes. And also all the positive energy that I have gathered by doing these activities will go with me into future lives. So by thinking like that, you might think, oh, then I'll choose my Dharma activity first. That's my first thing on the list to do. When that is done, I'm going to do other things. And so then Gilles says, what if we do the samsaric activities mindfully, like a meditation? So whether that becomes Dharma or not depends upon your motivation, right? Not so much on you doing it mindfully. When you do samsaric activities mindfully, the benefit that comes from that is that not so many delusions arise in the mind, because the mind is in the present moment. But that doesn't make your activity necessarily a Dharma activity. To make it a Dharma activity, your purpose must be beyond this life. Doing a samsaric activity mindfully is normally so that I feel better now in this life. Has nothing to do with future lives, has nothing to do with liberation, has nothing to do with enlightenment, has maybe a little bit to do with benefiting others. You could think like that, but not necessarily even. So if you can generate a motivation that is beyond this life, then we can use the activities which are normally samsaric activities and transform them in that way into a spiritual practice. So some people, for instance, they wash the windows. In Dutch, people do that a lot, I've heard. Other people, maybe not so much. They wash the windows and they think, I'm washing away all my delusions from the mind. I'm washing all the delusions from the mind. Or you sweep the floor and you think, I'm sweeping away all the delusions. These are forms of mind transformation. And then you can do whatever activity you direct your mind towards the Dharma. Being mindfully can help you to understand your mind better. Yes, that's true, but you still need to set a good motivation for that. Right? Because understanding the mind better is often that I want to have better understanding in my problem now. But if you say, if I understand my mind better, if I can see my mind more clearly, I will be able to, for instance, practice more virtue so that I achieve more quickly enlightenment, so that I can be of greatest benefit to all sentient beings, something like that. Just make it bigger than yourself and this life, And I did not say practicing mindfully samsaric activities is not a good thing to do. I just say it's not part of spiritual practice. It's still a samsaric activity, right? We can learn a lot from samsaric activities, but what do we do with that learning? Where are we going to use it for? There are many useful things in samsara that we can do. For instance, I can help many beings in samsara. I can help to relieve their pain. I can help to relieve their suffering. Is that a bad thing? It's not a bad thing, but it can still be a samsaric thing. And then when it is a samsaric thing, I still create some merit with it. But the merit that I create is very limited. Right? So if you're going to help others anyway, if you're going to be mindfully anyway, then better use a very good motivation so that the result of your activity becomes much bigger. Right? Then we can do the same activity with a very different result. So we had two forms of laziness, procrastination attached to samsaric activities. And then there is the laziness, and this is very interesting for us, I think, which is called the laziness which is discouragement, or the laziness which is self-contempt. And some people call it even low self-esteem. You know, for instance, we think, enlightenment, I will never be able to do that. You know, we feel that I don't have that capacity. I don't even have the potential, you know, because maybe other people have Buddha potential, but I know for sure I don't have Buddha potential. I can't do that. So that is called a discouragement about the goal that we can achieve. And then in Buddhism it says, but even a fly has the potential to achieve enlightenment. So even if a fly has the potential to achieve enlightenment, of course you have that too. Or we can say, you know, maybe I can achieve enlightenment, but these practices that I need to do, I won't be able to do that. That's much too difficult for me. And sometimes practices are described like giving away your body. Giving away your body and experiencing bliss while doing that. And we say, no way, I cannot do that. I cannot do that. So, but then we can say, you know, you don't have to start there. You start where you are and you just take on every time a little bit more, every time a little bit more, but not more than you can bear, not more than you can handle. Right? You're not expected to engage in very difficult practices straight from the beginning at all. Only when you feel that you are ready and when you feel that you can do it. And you go step by step. And if you're not ready for the next step, you can repeat the previous step. Right? This is what we tell ourselves in order to address this type of discouragement. We need to see that every quality that we develop comes from causes and conditions. Every quality that we develop doesn't come from nowhere. It doesn't come falling from the sky. It doesn't come just, you know, with our birth. Even if it might have been there from the beginning, we practice many lifetimes in order to develop that quality. Right? Some people are born with extremely beautiful gifts. These are not coming from nothing. These are coming from practices having been done in past lives. Right? And sometimes they are leftovers, or sometimes they are partly the qualities of what we had in past lives. But they have been developed independent on causes and conditions. So even if you feel that you have no qualities or very little qualities or very little whatever, you can always do something. Every little step is also a step. Right? So by reflecting in that way, we can encourage ourselves to make the next step and the next step. And then there is a discouragement that we say, oh my gosh, you know, I'm here in samsara, and samsara is so huge and it is so vast and it is so deep. No way. No way that I can get out of this. But then you have to think about the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who also had a mind like us at a certain stage in their life, you know, and they started to develop the causes and conditions, to develop qualities that eventually help them to go beyond samsara. And so if they have that quality while they were once in a state where their mind was ignorance and deluded like our mind, and they have the same Buddha potential as us, that means that we should be able to do the same thing. You know, it will take time, but we can do step by step. So these are the lazinesses that we try to address. And yeah, let me leave it like that. Otherwise, I don't have time enough to go to the next one. And so how can we do that? One way of, in order to develop the joyous effort, in the Lamrim, they speak about developing 4 forces or gathering the forces of the favorable conditions. And the first one is that we develop the power of aspiration. And so we contemplate that whole story about cause and effect. We aspire to achieve something. And when we think, oh, that's too much for me, then we think about what are the causes and conditions? And what can I start to develop right now, which is on the way to achieving that? That's the power of aspiration. Then we develop the power of steadfastness, which is that you make a commitment that you're going to finish the job or you're going to finish the task. So if I set out, I'm going to achieve enlightenment, I want to achieve enlightenment, I have to make sure that I can sustain that motivation, that I do not give up. Right? So then in order to do that, it is good to also have smaller motivations within that big context of achieving enlightenment. So for instance, I can say, well, you know, today I want to learn how to do water bowl offerings. And what I would like to learn is that I can do 2,000 water bowl offerings every day. But for now, it's a little bit too much, you know. So if I would set the goal straight away, I'm going to do today 2,000, then maybe halfway, I think, no, I'm not going to make it. So I give up. So then better is that I say, okay, today I'll do 200 and tomorrow I'll do, if that goes well, I'll do 400 tomorrow. And then the next day I do 600 or 800. And then slowly, slowly I build up until I have the capacity to do 2,000. Right? This is how we train. This is how we train when we go to the gym. This is how we train when we practice virtue. We start with what we can do, and then we slowly build up so that we achieve the goal. So why is that? You know, being able to bring your task to completion is very important, because if I would now give up on my water bowls, I have this commitment, I want to do these water bowls, and halfway I say, no, I'm not going to make it, I'm going to give up. I'm going to habituate my mind to giving up. Right? Because giving up is like I give myself permission to just collapse and leave it. That gives, in the first instance, quite a relief. And then that makes that next time, when it is hard, I want to choose for that relief. And it's going to be easier because I already have chosen for that relief before. Can you see that? So if we want to habituate the mind to being able to fulfill our commitment or fulfill what we set out for, We need to do steps that we can take. We have to make sure that we are successful in what we are doing. Don't make your job too big. Don't have too high expectations of yourself. And then we need to develop the power of joy. And that joy is something that that is something that you say to a child, oh, today we're going to go on a little holiday. We're going to go there and there. We're going to do this and this. And the child is like, yay, we're going to go. And that joy of the child, that playfulness of the child makes that you can sustain the energy of doing it. So when we can generate a mind that is very happy, like, wow, today I have this opportunity. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to set out for that. I can't wait to start doing it. And when I have a break, I have this restless feeling like I really want to finish this. That is the power of joy. We want to develop that independence on the power of aspiration and the power of steadfastness. And then in order to develop joyous effort, we also need to have the power of relinquishment, which is we need to know when it's time to rest. Right? There are times that we say, now I need to take a break. Because if I keep running, if I keep going, I will just walk over myself. And I will become so exhausted that I do not want to go back anymore into these activities. Have you ever had that you push yourself so far that then you have so much resistance in doing these activities that first were quite nice and you like them, but suddenly it's like, no, I have resistance of going there. So we do not want to get there, right? We want to prevent that the mind comes to a place that we say, now I don't want to do any Dharma anymore. It's too much. So that's the power of relinquishment. So in order to develop joyous effort, we develop these powers. And when we engage in virtuous activities again and again, the mind and the body becomes more serviceable, which means they are more flexible, they are more willing to go into whatever direction is needed. They are in service of your wishes. They follow more easily. That's the result that we're going to experience. And that is what we need in order to develop the next two perfections, or even the quality of meditative stabilization and the quality of wisdom. So the quality of meditative stabilization is the quality of developing a virtuous, one-pointed mind that can stay fixed on its object of meditation without being distracted by other things. So that is not any mind of concentration, right? Because, for instance, if I want to rob a bank, I need to be very concentrated on making a plan and making sure that the plan is correct and that I be able. That concentration is not a meditative stabilization that we'll talk about. Meditative stabilization only refers to virtuous minds, not just a mind that is able to focus on an object. So that's very important. When we develop meditative stabilization, we develop more pliancy even than the joyous effort did in the body and in the mind. Developing concentration will help to develop a mind that is, they call it non-discursiveness, which means that the mind has calmed down. So any discursive thoughts, any thoughts that are not about the object itself, they disappear out of the mind. And also the mind becomes very clear and experiences a lot of bliss. So sometimes we hear about, we can do courses on shamatha or on calm abiding. I'm going to achieve calm abiding, or I'm going to practice calm abiding. But actually what we are doing is we are practicing what they say mental placements. We are practicing bringing the mind back to the present moment, bringing the mind back to the present moment. Some people would say, oh, that is just practicing mindfulness, right? Bringing the mind back to the present moment. So in terms of the terms that are used, there can be a lot of confusion, right? We are using some terms from within Buddhism are used in a way that Buddhism actually uses these terms very differently or differently. So if we go from the mind that we have now, our mind is occupied with delusions, distractions. The mind wants to go this way. The mind is still overthinking what happened yesterday, and the mind is overthinking in general, right? We are making up stories the whole day. If we can see that a mind like that is actually in the way of developing any good quality, if we would see that if our mind was really focused on developing the quality, we would go really fast in developing that quality, right? Often the problem is, the mind is so distracted. I can only focus my mind a couple of minutes in a whole hour. So then only these couple of minutes do I have an increase in my skills, in what I'm learning. But if I would be able to focus my mind the whole time on learning a new skill, I would go much faster, right? So in that way, developing what they call mindfulness or concentration is a very good skill to have. And Alan Wallens, he is trying to help his students to develop that skill, because with that quality, you can do so much, on all levels, whatever you're going to study with a mind that is very focused, you will learn it quickly. So where we are right now, how do we develop concentration? We do that by bringing the mind back to the present moment, and we keep repeating that. And in the beginning, the mind will stay 2 seconds, and then it will be gone for 5 minutes, right? And then we realize, oh, my mind was wandering off. I'll bring it back. And then by practicing that, the time that we can stay on the object becomes a little bit longer. And this time that we are distracted becomes a little bit shorter, right? And so then we keep following the same instruction. And then the instruction says, hey, now you have to check. Because every time when the mind starts to wander off towards the future, the mind gets a little bit anxious. We need to notice that. So I need to develop not just the mindfulness of staying on the object, but also the alertness that is observing when the mind is leaving the object. And then alertness says, hey, that mind has to come back. Oh yes, mindfulness brings the mind back. And we also need to notice when the mind, starts sinking, becomes a bit dull and unclear. Or we just related to, sometimes it can be related to overthinking the past, but not necessarily. So we need to notice that and then lift our mind out of that so that the mind becomes stable and the mind becomes clear. And so we can develop that quality in the mind until we are on the 9th mental state. And if we are there, we have developed a mind that can be focused single-pointedly on an object for as long as we want. That's not yet calm abiding. That's not yet shamatha. Then we need to deepen that practice, staying single-pointedly on an object for as long as we want. And then at a certain point, when we stay with that practice, there will be a change in our body and a change in our mind. And we get pliancy, or the bliss of pliancy arising in the body and in the mind. And then, when that bliss has arisen, we have achieved calm abiding. The mind of calm abiding is not anymore under the control of coarse attachment like we have. That mind of calm abiding is a little bit outside of what we call the desire realm. We are here in the desire realm. We are motivated by coarse desire. Animals are motivated by coarse desire. You know, many beings are motivated by that. When we achieve calm abiding, we are out of the desire realm. Then from the desire realm, there are higher realms, and we can, in our human body, we can develop the states of mind that belong to these higher realms, which initially with calm abiding and going from there to more subtle minds, they are very blissful. And then we realize that these blissful minds are actually also disturbing. And so then we strive for more peaceful minds. And we go, how to say that? There are 4 states that we can achieve with what we call the form realm. And then there are 4 states of mind that we can achieve in what we call the formless realm. They are all more subtle than the previous stage. So from calm abiding, we develop a mind that is more subtle, which is the mind of the first concentration. And then at a certain point, we realize that actually that mind is not that subtle. I can feel that there is a more subtle mind. And then I prepare for developing the mind that is on that more subtle level. And then I realize, oh, but actually this mind is also not the most subtle mind. You know, so then I develop further and further and further. So when I do that, what happens with the delusions? What happens with the distractions? They become what we say more and more suppressed. They are not in the mind. They are not manifest in the mind. But the seeds of these delusions, they are still in the mind. It is just that the conditions for these seeds to ripen into delusions, they are not present. So therefore they cannot ripen. So therefore you can think, oh, I achieved enlightenment, you know, because I have no more delusions in the mind. They're not coming. I'm in control. Right? But Buddhism says, no, that's not enlightenment. In order to achieve enlightenment, we do need the concentrations in order to realize the nature of reality. But the only way towards enlightenment is when we develop the wisdom mind that understands the nature of reality and that can see the nature of reality directly. Only then can we eliminate the delusions from the mind in a manner that they never can come back. And so with that, we go to the perfection of wisdom. So we do need to first, in order to really have the penetrative insight that realizes the nature of reality directly, that can see the nature of reality without having to use the conceptual mind. We need to have meditative stabilization. We need to have at least calm abiding. So in order to develop that wisdom mind, we first need to have that calm abiding. Then we use calm abiding not just as a state in which we're gonna enjoy life, you know, or in which we're gonna use in order to achieve higher states of concentration. We're going to use that mind of calm abiding in order to do analysis on the nature of reality. The nature of reality is about, how do I exist? How does the self exist? Is there a self? What is the self? You know, is that part of the body? Is that part of the mind? How does it appear to me? And can it exist in actuality like that? And I'm going to apply reasoning. I'm going to see the self from different perspectives until I develop the mind that says, this self is actually created by my mind. That doesn't exist in actuality. This is the self that exists in actuality, but I cannot yet perceive it because the other self that I have fantasized is in the way all the time. Once I have that very clear, I can go into meditative stabilization, into the concentration meditation, and I can analyze without losing the stability. And I can analyze in the nature of reality, and with that penetrate through the conceptual mind and see the nature of reality directly. That mind has the power to eliminate all the delusions. And then these delusions are deleted or eliminated forever. You know, they cannot come back. Not because the conditions are not there for them to come back, but because I have seen the nature of reality. And that is the antidote to these delusions. That realization I will never lose, never ever. So therefore these delusions cannot come back, you know, because I've seen they're false. So it's like when you believe that you have something in your purse, you know. I think I have two how you say that? 2 times $50 in my purse. And then I open my purse and I see only one. I don't see the one, I see the absence of the one that I thought was there. Right? Where is that one? I'm sure there was another one. Where is it? I'm sure there was another one. So that other one, when we see the emptiness of the $50 that we thought was in the purse, our mind is not going to think, oh, but it's still there. Right? The mind that believes that $50 is there cannot exist anymore. True? Do you understand what I'm trying to explain? I'm not sure if I explain it clear enough. When we realize emptiness, maybe I went a little bit too fast with that. But I have spoken, I think, about the self and how we create qualities, how we make up qualities as if they belong to the self. The quality of being more permanent, more unitary, more independent than the self exists in actuality. That is like a creation of the mind. It is a creation of the conceptual mind. When I develop the mind that sees through these conceptions and can see that in actuality these qualities are not there, then that mind that makes up these qualities cannot arise anymore. Because that wisdom mind is so strong, it knows with a certainty that is more than 100%, if that will be possible. The certainty is so strong. You cannot believe anymore in the delusions when you have seen that. That's a quality that we can develop. How do we do that? You know, we start with listening to the teachings again and again and again. And in the beginning, when you hear teachings on emptiness or maybe on other topics, I don't know, emptiness is quite difficult, especially in the beginning. maybe you think, I'm not sure what they're talking about, you know, or this is really, really totally out of my way of thinking. But you keep listening and you keep listening. And then slowly, slowly, you know, you start to familiarize, because what the Dharma is talking about, the Dharma is actually like a mirror of our own potential, of what is possible in the body and the mind. And the Dharma is showing us that the whole time. It's talking about that the whole time. And so when we're very far off, when we have created an image about ourselves and about reality that is far off the nature of reality, we might think like, this is a little bit weird, and, but maybe we feel something resonating inside. You know, so let the Dharma speak to whatever it is resonating with. You listen and you listen, and then you talk with people who also listen to the same teachings. You study, you sit down, you think about it, you look how you can apply that to your life, you check if it is working in your life. And then when you at a certain point can come to a conclusion and say, oh, wow, you know, that actually is true. Then you sit down and you meditate on it. And so the teachings of the Buddha are extremely extensive. You know, it's I feel like I need many lifetimes in order to be able to just read through the teachings, to develop a mind that is concentrated enough that it wants to sit down and read. That's already difficult for me. So maybe also difficult for some of you, you know, but we can start where we are right now. Where are you right now? And what is it that you can do? What is it that you can do with ease? Or what can you ask yourself to do without getting to the point that it is too much? How can you do things so that it is within your capacity and that you use it to increase your self-confidence, your courage, so that you can keep going for a long period of time? Developing qualities is not about running fast, you know, getting somewhere, having done something. It is a very long-term process. So you need to set out, oh, this is going to be long term. So I need to walk in a pace that I can continue this for a long period of time. I should do it in a pace that I never have to give up. And if I feel that I'm about to give up, I need to take a break. Right? That's how we... And so when we develop that wisdom mind, we need to develop the mind that is familiar with the ultimate nature of reality. And from that, we develop the wisdom mind that knows the conventional nature of reality. And then with that, we develop the skillful means so that we can work for the benefit of living beings. Okay, let's do some question and answer. You have become so quiet. I want to see what's going on. See your faces. So tomorrow I'm going to talk about bodhicitta, developing the mind that wishes to attain enlightenment for the benefit of sentient beings. And I especially want to focus on how we can develop such a mind for all sentient beings, you know, not just the ones that we like. But how can we develop a mind that is willing to do a virtuous action, a positive action for those that we don't like and those that have hurt us? You know, because we are the mind, especially in this time, you know, we get so polarized. Only one type of people is good. We want to work for them, but all the rest, you know, they just have to sit with their own crap. We're not going to take care of them. That's not really, has nothing to do with, that's so opposite of what we do in Buddhism. So I think maybe the tools that are in Buddhism can help us at this time specifically well. So Christina says, what are realistic goals, intentions for lay peoples with jobs, family, etc., practices to live more fully aligned in this life? So, I mean, your goals and your intentions can be the same as for ordained people, right? But maybe the way you practice is a little bit different. And I can imagine that when you live with jobs and families, that you might have only a little time to do formal practice on the cushion, right? But maybe you can find 10 minutes a day that you give to yourself to sit down and close your eyes and connect with where you are at that moment. And then what you can try to do is you can try to use whatever you need to do in life. You use it to transform your mind. So you're going to be very skilled in mind transformation. Once I met a guy and I said, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, his job had nothing to do with spirituality. He says, I'm taking care of the street lights in this whole area. And I thought, what a fantastic Dharma practice. You make sure that there is light in that area all the time. That is your job, you know. Use that not just on the material level, but use that to every time that you fix some lights, you fix also lights on the mental level, you know. Express the wish that you want to enlighten sentient beings on all levels by you turning on this bulb. And so this you need to use your own creativity, how you can transform the mind. And there are some practices in Lama Zopa is giving some practices. Pema, I don't know the title of that, but where I can try to look it up for tomorrow. Something with bodhicitta in daily life. How you can transform your mind in daily life into a bodhicitta mind. For instance, when Rinpoche walks up a little steep street, he would think, oh, I'm walking here and I'm taking all sentient beings out of the lower realms with me. Out of the lower realms, all of sentient beings. Or if he opens the door, and then he says, I'm opening the door to the higher realms, or I'm closing the door to the lower realms, or every time, whatever action he's doing, he tries to think of something that is related to the Dharma. And so then he repeats that again and again and again. And that is how he makes the mind Dharma. And that is how people who do not have much time for formal practice, how they can use the mind in order to transform their activities into Dharma. So I will look that up for tomorrow if it doesn't pop in, if Pema has no...
I think I found it, Venerable. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'll post in the chat.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Can you do something with that, Christine? You have to try. Not good enough? Tell me. I can give it another shot if you want. I feel I need more bite-sized goals. Like, what is it that you would like to develop? Is there a skill that you would like to develop? Is there a quality that you would like to develop? Is there what you think like, oh, you know, this, I've been doing this all the time and it is so, I don't know, distracting, or sometimes people get a bit agitated by certain things that are happening in their mind, or is everything a little bit numb, or you got you want to?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I guess I just feel like it's hard to keep the motivation when it feels so like enlightenment. It's just so far away. It's hard to maintain or even get motivated when it's the goal is like, yeah, lifetimes or lifetimes away. And whereas like if I could feel like there was some practices, and I know that there are practices that are like helpful to realize, you know, improvements in your life. It's just I don't know, it always seems to come to these motivations that are so big they feel too big.
Yes, I understand. And then you feel overwhelmed, and then you feel like that is a little bit what they call the laziness of discouragement. Right. I was quite shocked when I discovered that is called laziness, because I thought, oh no, that's not laziness. You still try, but it's just too big. But that's just how it is labeled in Tibetan Buddhism. What you could try to do is, what do you feel is useful to practice for you? Are there things that you think, oh, I would like to do that. I see benefits in me doing that. Can you unmute Christine? Pema?
Yeah, I mean, generally meditation practices, and I know that when I fall out of practice, I'm more irritable, that sort of thing. So I guess I'm asking, like, is there a middle goal? Or
well, I think maybe you could maybe formulate it differently. So if you feel that, well, when I do the meditation, I get more agitated, which means there is more aversion in the mind. There is more, maybe a little bit of anger in the mind. And when there is anger in the mind, I engage in activities that I regret afterwards because I hurt people, my relationships get damaged. I don't feel happy doing that, right? True or not, Christine?
Yeah, so when I meditate more, I find myself less reactive. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to meditate in order to become a better version of myself, in order to make sure that my mind doesn't get agitated, in order to make sure that I can keep nourishing my relationships and do not damage them, you know, with my delusions. And so that is my goal for today. And by doing that, I create causes to develop my inner qualities, and I want to keep developing them until I have developed them to their utmost extent, or something like that. But you first set a goal of, this is what I want to do for now. This is what I want to do. But that is still on your way to enlightenment, right? It's not different from enlightenment. It is just that if we only say, I want to achieve enlightenment, that is so far away. It seems to be totally useless what we are doing. And it seems that we're never getting anywhere. And I'm still dealing with these agitations coming to my mind. And so where is Buddhahood? It's really, and I totally understand that you can set very short-term goals, which are in the context of enlightenment, right?
Yes, thank you.
So you can say, I would like to achieve enlightenment and so in the end, I would like to achieve enlightenment, but for today, I'm just going to focus on this skill. This is all I can do. And then let enlightenment go for a little while. You know, don't make it too big. Don't, because it becomes an obstacle if you keep seeing it the way you see it now. Then you don't want to do anything anymore. Sometimes enlightenment is described as becoming the best version that you can. Right? That sounds a little bit different than enlightenment. Sometimes you can say, I want to wake up to reality. I want to see how things are. You know, that's another way of saying, I want to develop the wisdom that realizes emptiness. You say, I want to see things as they are. I want to wake up to reality. I want to open up my heart to other sentient beings, you know. And maybe for a while you say that's good enough. And when you get a little bit of encouragement with these practices, then maybe you think about how you could fit that enlightenment in. And if you feel like, no, it's still not time to bring that back, then leave it there for a while. I'm sure you will go back to that. You know, I have the feeling that something in you wants to go back there, but maybe not now consciously. I think subconsciously you're already on that path. Is that true?
Yeah, I hope so.
So you can also trust that intuition or that subconscious mind that is already maybe lifetimes going in that direction. But just this lifetime, you're figuring out, how do I going to do this lifetime? You know, because it seems that the conditions are so different. Maybe you live many lifetimes as a nun, somewhere very quiet, very structured practice. And now you find yourself, you cannot do any of that. Then how are you going to practice? That might take a while to figure that out, you know. But in the meantime, your energy still moves towards, I want to develop myself. Right? I would trust it if I were you. I wouldn't be too scared that you're going to lose it. I don't think so. Otherwise, you contact me and I'll help you to reconnect. Can I go to the next one? Are you okay, Christine? Okay. Gilles says, maybe working deep on one aspect and seeing improvement on it could be a way to encourage us to improve further. So one aspect at a time. Yeah, I'm trying to think back how, I mean, I had also quite overwhelming times, you know, where you're totally overwhelmed by that motivation of becoming enlightened. And also totally overwhelmed by all the study that tells you you need to focus on this and on this and on this and on this. And it is like, oh my gosh, I cannot focus on 10 things at a time. Give me one or give me two. And so it feels like you have to hold many balls in the air, and it is very difficult and very tiring. And so to sort that out, I don't know if I could give advice or that you have to do that yourself and see what works for you, you know. I'm sure it is definitely not the intention of the Buddha to overwhelm us with so much information that we get, that we freeze and that we say, oh, I'm not able to move in any direction, right? And so then doing one thing is much better than doing nothing, right? So what the teachers are sometimes worried about is that we start doing things that are, for instance, with the mindfulness training. When we practice mindfulness, we start to feel quite all right, right? We do every day, half an hour in the morning, half an hour at night. The mind becomes calm, the mind becomes more spacious, less delusions in the mind, less agitation in the mind. And when I go to my office, I am able to manage what is happening around me, and I have quite a good life. And then that's it. As long as I do these 2 meditations, I have quite a good life. And we're going to leave it like that. Then you use a skill that comes from Buddhism. You use that to improve your samsaric life, right? And yes, I could say you have generated less delusions. Yes, you have created less causes for suffering because of that. But in the meantime, if your motivation is only for being relieved from that suffering of the delusions in this life, then still whatever you're doing is part of samsara. And so then you create the habit of using these techniques just to improve your samsara. So I'm thinking about maybe it is possible to, you can do that one practice, but somewhere generate the motivation that you are doing this. You are trying to improve your life right now so that you have more space in your mind, so that you are creating less negativity, so that that can become a cause for your enlightenment. Or so that can become a cause for you to be able to benefit sentient beings, or that becomes a cause for you to wake up to the nature of reality. Something that takes you beyond samsara. Whatever is appealing to you, whatever works for you, but beyond samsara. And at least beyond this life. I mean, I don't know, for me, it doesn't work so much, happiness of future life. I'm miserable in this life and I have to work for the happiness of future lives. I think I just want to be happy now, But if I think about the happiness of liberation, of going beyond samsara, then I am prepared to take on some suffering, then it is, for me, that is what works for me. But you need to check what works for you. Is that all right, Gilles? And I think there was a little time that I thought, I cannot think about enlightenment anymore. And I'm scared to say that to you guys sitting in this position. But and the only reason why I say that is because it is what happens. It's like it's too much, it's too big, and so I had to limit myself and say, okay, I'm just going to do that. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just not going to think about it. And then at a certain point, then slowly it comes back. And then I can do it in a different way with less tight mind being focused on that. Would there be a risk of attachment to enlightenment? I don't think it is a risk to attachment to enlightenment. I mean, then we go in a whole discussion that you cannot get, because attachment exaggerates the qualities of enlightenment, and they say you can never exaggerate the qualities of enlightenment. So therefore, you cannot be attached to enlightenment. But you can, of course, be attached to the idea of you being enlightened. And you having all these wonderful qualities, oh my gosh, We are also very attached to how you say that in English? To achieve a goal, right? I set a goal and I want to achieve it. Or to finish a job. This is what I'm going to do. We use our attachment to move forward. And so when we do that within the Dharma practice, then there is the danger that we exhaust ourselves. You know, Dharma, when you practice Dharma, it always works against your delusions. Even if you use the delusions to, work for the Dharma will somehow show you that that is not a way to go. You know, for instance, you get totally exhausted. You cannot do it anymore. You get what we call lunged out. Your wind energies, they get so worked up in your body that you have trouble breathing, you have trouble thinking, you feel uncomfortable in your body, all kinds of things. When we work with too much attachment, things like that will happen. But we do that. As beginners, what will be your guidance on daily practices that we should continue doing to living life of the fullest? What should we read? Shall I talk about that a little bit tomorrow? Is that okay? How do we help others with skillful means when we know we want to and have an opportunity to further our practice? I'm going to ask you to ask that question tomorrow, because otherwise we won't be able to do the meditation. And I need a little bit more explanation, Isadora. Like, do you mean that you have an opportunity for practice and therefore you cannot not help others? And then how do you do that skillfully? Is that what you mean? But so maybe you can tomorrow. So this is my question when I read it, that you give me tomorrow a little bit more explanation, and then I come back to that tomorrow. Is that okay? Okay, cool. Cool, because yesterday we had a very short meditation, today again. You know, and if it is overwhelming what you hear and you think, oh my gosh, how do I ever going to achieve that? How do I ever going to even start doing this? Going back to a meditation on the nature of the mind can be very helpful. You know, there is no rush, there is no hurry. Just remember who you are. You know, then a lot will happen naturally. So let's do that. A meditation on the clarity of the mind. Right? It's very important that we stay relaxed while on the path. Tibetan monks, they are extremely relaxed. They're never rushing. They're never in a hurry. They can do things very fast, but they're not rushed. So find yourself a posture that is suitable for the meditation. And I can imagine that you feel a bit overwhelmed with all the information that you got, you know. So remember that we spoke about the last 3 perfections in which so much knowledge is contained that it can just freeze the mind. You know? So let all that go. Whatever you heard today, let it go. You have made some imprints, and I'm sure that some of the things that you have heard will come back at a later time. And the most important thing is that we start where we are right now. We can read about the path, we can study the path, but we cannot study starting at the end of the path. We start where we are. So your mind is with your body. Your mind is resting on your body. And your alertness is checking whether your mind is still with your body. And then think that the mind is that which is clear and knowing. The nature of the mind is that it is clear. The nature of the mind is clarity. It is without form or color. We can't see it, we can't touch it. It is like space, pure awareness. And whatever we experience, the sensations of our body, our thoughts, our feelings, the perceptions of sounds, and so forth. Also, they are by nature clear and knowing. They are also like space. So the mind itself is like space, and everything that arises in the mind is also like space. And when we focus on the space-like nature of the mind, when we focus on the space-like nature of mind itself, we create a space in which we allow our thoughts and feelings to arise. We don't push away any thoughts or feelings because we have the knowledge that thoughts and feelings of themselves are not bad. They're just thoughts and feelings. By nature, clear. So we allow them to arise. And by doing so, we give them the opportunity to dissolve back into the mind. When we allow feelings and thoughts to arise, they exhaust themselves. they cannot arise again in the future. So while you're focused on the spacious aspect of the mind, you contemplate this. We also don't follow the thoughts and the feelings, with the knowledge that pleasant thoughts and feelings are not good by nature. The way we pursue happiness is that we hold on to our thoughts and feelings, and we do not allow them to dissolve back into the mind. But that actually causes suffering for us. So if we could enjoy the pleasant feelings and thoughts when they arise in the mind, and we allow them to dissolve back into the mind without wanting to hold on to them, we do not create any suffering for ourselves. Stay focused on the clear, pure nature of the mind. Any thought that arises, any feeling that arises, just focus on the space-like nature. Any attachment that arises or aversion, focus on the space-like nature. The nature of the mind is like an infinite empty space. Rest in that space. And by doing so, the mind becomes more light. More light. And so this is an extremely powerful meditation. It is an antidote to all the disturbing emotions. It is an antidote to all our excessive thoughts. Once we see the nature of these feelings, of these reactions to the feelings, of our thoughts, that nature is space-like, nothing to hold on to, no essence, no substance, there's nothing there. We can dissolve into that space. There's nothing more important to do than just that. Dissolve into the space and rest into the space. Living life to the fullest means that we connect with our essence. That we connect with reality. That we connect with how things are. When we do so, there is no need to achieve anything, nor is there anything that needs to be achieved. We are just aware of what is presenting itself. And then notice that your mind becomes peaceful and calm. And let that connect with your heart. Let it sink into your heart. It is totally okay. It is actually a very virtuous activity to meditate on the nature of the mind. Being with your own stillness. Allowing yourself to rest in that nature. And then if you feel that this is a pleasant meditation for you, you can make a determination that you're going to come back to that space at a later point in time. And maybe you want to connect with this space once a day, twice a day, even if it is just for a minute. Reminding yourself that the mind is that which is clear and knowing, and that all the thoughts and the delusions that arise in that are also by nature clear and knowing. Nothing to hold on to. No substance. They are all like space. And then we can dedicate all the positive energy that we have gathered by doing this session, by doing this meditation. And all that positive energy that is within us as white light. We let it flow over towards sentient beings, wishing them well, wishing them freedom of suffering, wishing them temporary and perfect happiness. Thank you very much for being here today. Tomorrow is the last day. We're going to talk about bodhicitta, about opening the heart. And then there will be one day question and answer for the sponsors. But the course will be kind of officially finished tomorrow. So I hope you'll see you all then. Have a good evening or a good afternoon.
Thank
See
you,
you
Venerable, so much. Thank you. Have a good day to you and to everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.